Good evening, my dear. For decades, whispers and theories have circulated about a mysterious object orbiting Earth, an object not of human origin, an ancient sentinel observing our planet. This is the tale of the blackknightsatellite, a legend that blurs the lines between science fiction and unexplained phenomena. Is it an alien spacecraft, a forgotten piece of human history, or merely a collection of misinterpreted data and vivid imagination? Join me as we delve into the depths of this enduring mystery, exploring its origins, the alleged evidence, and the various theories that attempt to explain its existence. Prepare to question what you know about our celestial neighborhood and the secrets it might hold. Rest assured, my dear, you'll never look at the skies the same way again. I am Sebastian, your host, and this is From Beyond.
From Tesla to the Pentagon, the Black Knight satellite has haunted scientists for generations. Nikola Tesla first intercepted its signal in 1899. Astronauts on the ISS have photographed it. NASA has repeatedly tried and failed to debunk it. Yet it remains one of the most persistent mysteries of the space age. Why does it follow us? What is it hiding? Tonight, we piece together the scattered clues, tracing its eerie journey from myth to reality. By the end of this video, you might just start looking up at the night sky a little differently. In 1899, Nikola Tesla set up a radio receiver in Colorado Springs. His goal was simple: to track thunderstorms. But what he recorded wasn't weather. The device picked up rhythmic pulses unlike any natural phenomenon. Tesla described them as counting numbers, signals spaced with mathematical precision. He theorized they might be attempts at communication. This wasn't static interference. The pulses repeated in distinct intervals, sometimes for hours. Tesla noted the signals seemed strongest when his receiver pointed towards certain stars. Scientists today still debate what Tesla heard. Some argue it was Jupiter's magnetosphere interacting with Earth's atmosphere. Others point to early Marconi transmissions. But Tesla dismissed both explanations. He insisted the signals weren't human-made. In his notes, he speculated about intelligent controls behind them. The mystery deepened in 1928 when Norwegian engineer Jørgen Hals detected radio echoes with unusual delays. These weren't ordinary reflections. Signals bounced back minutes after transmission, far longer than physics predicted for Earth's atmosphere. Hals couldn't explain it. Neither could the researchers who studied his data. The anomalies had three troubling consistencies. First, the timing of echoes didn't match known celestial mechanics. Second, the signals appeared to respond when scientists changed frequencies. Third, the phenomenon occurred in cycles that didn't align with solar or lunar patterns. Mainstream science categorized these as unexplained ionospheric effects. But a few researchers noted something else. The echoes seemed to originate from points in space where no known objects existed. By the 1930s, amateur astronomers began connecting the dots. Some speculated a hidden object might be causing these effects. A science fiction magazine first coined the term Black Knight in 1954, suggesting an alien probe might be orbiting Earth. The idea seemed absurd until the space race began. Suddenly, military radar started picking up unidentified objects in peculiar orbits. These weren't Soviet satellites. The trajectories defied conventional rocket launches. Some tracks suggested the objects had been there long before Sputnik. Engineers noted odd radio frequencies emanating from certain orbital paths. Frequencies eerily similar to those Tesla recorded 6 decades earlier. The most compelling detail emerged from declassified documents. NORAD tracking logs from 1960 list an object catalogued as dark satellite. Its orbit was polar, a trajectory no nation used at the time. It moved against Earth's rotation, requiring impossible amounts of fuel to maintain. Radar operators reported the object sometimes changed speed without explanation. When journalists asked about it, officials gave contradictory answers. First, they called it space debris. Then they denied its existence altogether. The very next year, Gordon Cooper reported seeing a glowing green object during his Mercury mission. Ground stations tracked it too, but NASA never explained what followed his capsule in orbit. These early events formed a pattern, one that would only intensify when astronauts started bringing cameras into space. By 1960, tensions in the Cold War had pushed space surveillance to new heights. The US Navy expanded its tracking systems, scanning the skies for any potential Soviet threats. Then, their radars picked up something unexpected: an unknown object moving in a polar orbit. This was unusual. At the time, no nation launched satellites that way. The trajectory required far more fuel than standard missions. The object was large, dark, and silent. It didn't match any known spacecraft. Press speculation immediately turned to Soviet spy satellites. The military remained tight-lipped, but leaks led Time magazine to dub it the blackknightsatellite. The orbit itself raised questions. It circled Earth every 104 minutes at an altitude of about 1,000 miles. Standard debris wouldn't maintain that path for long without falling back to Earth. Navy radar operators noted the object occasionally accelerated without explanation. When tracking stations plotted its course, they found irregularities, minor deviations that suggested it might be adjusting its position. Officials initially called it debris from the Discoverer 8 satellite, but the explanation didn't hold up. Discoverer 8 had a different orbital path. Documents later showed NORAD had been tracking the object since at least 1958. Then came the Mercury 9 mission in 1963. Astronaut Gordon Cooper reported seeing a greenish object approaching his capsule. Ground stations allegedly confirmed it on radar, though no official records corroborate this. Cooper insisted he wasn't alone up there. Something else was orbiting Earth with him. NASA dismissed his account as a hallucination caused by high CO2 levels, but Cooper, a seasoned test pilot, maintained what he saw was real. Declassified records from the era show military interest in unexplained radar tracks near manned missions. One memo described an object that disappeared from tracking without explanation. Official explanations kept shifting. First, it was a Soviet probe. Then, a piece of space junk. Later, military officials claimed their equipment had malfunctioned. The contradictions fueled suspicion. If it was just debris, why deny its existence later? Scientists outside government circles pointed out another oddity. The object's orbit was too stable for random debris. Calculations suggested it had been up there long before Sputnik, possibly decades. After 1965, mentions of the dark night disappeared from official statements. Yet amateur astronomers reported seeing unusual glints in polar orbit through the late 60s. Some claim to intercept faint radio pulses like those Tesla heard. The military's silence only deepened the mystery. If it wasn't a threat, why keep denying it? If it was just space junk, why couldn't they track its re-entry? The legend persisted, waiting for the next piece of the puzzle. Actual photographic proof. That would come decades later from an unexpected source. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station. In 1998, astronauts aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour captured an image that reignited the Black Knight mystery. The photo, taken during mission STS-88, showed a dark, irregular object floating against the blackness of space. NASA catalogued it as debris, but independent researchers saw something else. The object appeared too large and angular for typical space junk, with surface details that suggested structure rather than random fragments. Its matte surface reflected almost no light, unlike the glossy sheen of satellite panels or insulation blankets. Space journalist James Oberg offered a practical explanation. He suggested it might be a lost thermal blanket from an earlier spacewalk during the same mission. Astronauts Jerry Ross and James Newman had conducted repairs outside the shuttle, where small items commonly drifted away. NASA echoed this view, but the timing raised questions. The object appeared in multiple images taken over several orbits, far longer than expected for debris drifting slowly away from the station. Its trajectory didn't match predictions for discarded equipment. Independent analysts zoomed in on the details. They noted edges that seemed too straight for torn material, along with symmetrical shapes that resembled mounting points or panels. The object maintained consistent orientation relative to the shuttle, resisting the tumbling motion typical of loose debris. Some even claimed to see lettering or markings on its surface, though NASA dismissed this as pixelation. The debate intensified when researchers compared it to earlier descriptions of the Black Knight. Witnesses from the 1960s had reported a dark rectangular object with uneven edges, matching the general profile of what appeared in the photo. The most intriguing aspect was the history of similar sightings. In 1965, Gemini astronauts reported seeing an unidentified bogey during their mission. Soviet cosmonauts later described encountering dark objects in polar orbit. Both accounts mentioned the same characteristics: unusual shape, lack of reflection, and persistent presence. The 1998 photo wasn't an isolated case. It fit into a pattern of encounters spanning decades. NASA never provided a thorough breakdown of the object's movements before or after the mission. Some tracking data suggested it remained in orbit long after the thermal blanket should have burned up. Others pointed to inconsistencies in the agency's debris catalogue, which sometimes listed objects that didn't match known launches. The lack of definitive answers left room for speculation. If this was just space junk, why did so many details defy explanation? Why did similar objects keep appearing in the same orbit over generations? The photo became a key piece of evidence for those convinced the Black Knight was real. It also highlighted a recurring theme. Official dismissals often came without detailed rebuttals. Scientists outside NASA noted that if the object was artificial, its orbit suggested it had been there long before human spaceflight. That raised another unsettling possibility. What if it wasn't ours to begin with? The debate continues, unresolved, as newer images from the ISS occasionally surface. showing dark shapes that some claim are the same mysterious observer. The Black Knight theory often ties into the Bracewell probe concept, an idea proposed by astronomer Ronald Bracewell about autonomous interstellar probes. These hypothetical machines could explore space independently, potentially even communicating with civilizations they encounter. Some suggest the Black Knight fits this model, an ancient automated observer silently studying Earth. But orbital mechanics raises serious questions. Any object in low Earth orbit faces atmospheric drag. Over centuries, let alone millennia, such drag would pull it down unless it actively maintained position. No known material or technology could passively survive that long. NASA consistently attributes sightings to space debris. The famous 1998 ISS photo, officially catalogued as lost mission hardware. Space journalist James Oberg identified it as likely being a thermal blanket from repairs done during that same shuttle flight. That explanation makes practical sense. Objects often detach during spacewalks, and thermal blankets are large enough to match the photos. But questions linger. Why did the object appear in images across multiple orbits? Why did its trajectory not behave like typical drifting debris? NASA doesn't address these specifics, leaving gaps in the explanation. Physicists point out another flaw in the ancient satellite idea. Orbital decay calculations show nothing could remain intact for thousands of years without propulsion. Even modern satellites need adjustments to stay aloft. If the Black Knight were alien, it would require advanced systems to compensate, systems we've never detected. Brian Dunning of Skeptoid argues Tesla's mysterious signals came from pulsars, not ET. Martina Redpath at Armor Planetarium calls the Black Knight a jumble of unrelated stories. Yet the myth persists. Cultural factors drive much of its endurance. The tale combines Cold War secrecy, astronaut testimony, and NASA's occasional evasiveness about unexplained phenomena. People distrust official narratives when answers feel incomplete. The human mind also seeks patterns, connecting Tesla's signals to later radar tracks and photographs, even if they're decades apart. Conspiracy thinking thrives on gaps in knowledge. The less science confirms, the more speculation fills the void. Mainstream researchers rarely engage with Black Knight claims directly. Most consider it a fringe topic fueled by misidentified objects and exaggerated anecdotes. But that avoidance creates its own problem. When legitimate questions, like why certain radar tracks from the 1960s remain unexplained, go unanswered, it fuels alternative theories. No agency has ever released a comprehensive analysis of every alleged sighting. Without that, the debate can't fully settle. The truth likely sits between extremes. Not an alien probe, but not entirely mundane either. Some sightings were definitely debris. Others remain open to interpretation. The mystery endures because space holds countless unknowns, and our ability to observe is still limited. Perhaps someday better data will clarify things. Until then, the Black Knight lingers, not as proof of aliens, but as a reminder of how much we have left to discover. Look up tonight. Even if nothing's watching, the sky still keeps its secrets. I have told you what I know. Whether you believe it or not is entirely up to you.
So, the Black Knight doesn't fit neatly into any explanation. It might be debris, or something we haven't yet understood. Either way, It forces us to question what we know about the space around our planet. The sightings, the signals, the photos, they don't add up to proof, but they leave too many gaps to ignore. Next time you're outside on a clear night, take a moment to look up. Maybe it's just stars and satellites up there. Or maybe something else has been watching all along. The universe, as the saying goes, is stranger than we can imagine. I am Sebastian, your host. Until next time.